things, just don't listen. But at any rate, this is a call-in talk show, and we welcome your comments. The phone number here is 254-773-1400. Feel free to call in if you got something to say or something to talk about. There are so many things in the news to talk about that you kind of get lost in the fog, but we had better be talking about it because it is my belief that America and our way of life is very much in danger. I firmly believe that we may be on the verge of losing America. And there's a reason I say that. When you have high school students that very well might determine what kind of gun legislation we have next. When you have people like Joy Behar criticizing Vice President Spence, calling him mentally ill because he thinks he might be inspired of God at some point. Well, when you got people listening to those kind of people, and when you have a political party that seems to be hell bent on destroying this country, then what is this road we're traveling? Where are we going with this? What is the end result? What do people want to do that's promoting this kind of stuff? Where's it coming from? Who's paying for it? Is it George Soros? Is it Bill Gates? Is it, I don't know. But is it one person or is it a whole group of people? Is it the ultra rich that want to destroy the country? Is it the poor people? Who is it? I don't know, but I know that our traditional values are being destroyed. Our founding fathers' reputations are being destroyed. Our great patriots of the past are being ridiculed and made fun of. Statues like the Robert E. Lee statue or people like that. Who and what was Robert E. Lee? Why do we want to destroy his memory in the statues? Why is that? Oh, because of a word. Racist. Well, was he a racist? Why did he free the slaves that his father willed to him when his father died? If he was such a horrible, awful man, why did he set those people free? Why is that? Why was the Civil War started? Does anybody have any idea? Oh, it was started over slavery. No, it dadgum sure wasn't. Sure wasn't. It was started because of the lack of the presumption of innocence, the violation of habeas corpus. When they locked up 1,500 Southern people without due process, without warrant, that's what started the Civil War. That's when they fired on Fort Sumter. Now, that's my recollection of what happened. If there's somebody out there that thinks it was started because of racism or because of slave days, then go ahead and think that if you want to, but it's not right. I had a history teacher at A&M. I'll never forget what he said. He said, let's put the Civil War in perspective. Let's look at what really happened. And he brought forth some facts about the Civil War and about that period of time in our history. And it sure taught me something. Today you can occasionally hear a few facts, but most of the time you hear emotion. You hear about this emotional hysteria. Just for example, just mention the word AR-15 and watch people go into a panic mode. You just about have a nervous breakdown when you mention the word AR-15. Why are we being hammered with this constantly, all the time? Why do we now, we have high school students demonstrating to try to get more gun legislation, etc., who's leading that? Who's causing this to happen? Is this being led by community organizers? I might remind people that the last time we paid a whole lot of attention to a community organizer, we got a fellow named Barack Obama. He did more damage to the United States of America than all the foreign armies we've had in history. We're just now getting over some of those mistakes that he made. Just for example, all of the regulations that he helped to create. We have just about regulated business out of the United States. They were talking earlier on the Jeff McClure show about the production of aluminum. And why has it gone overseas? Well, when you look at all of the OSHA, EPA, etc. regulations regarding the producing of aluminum, that's why they're making it in some other country, because they can't afford to make it here. I saw the same thing happen in Montana. In Montana, they taxed industry out of the state. There wasn't any industry there. The only industry in Montana was the welfare state. For every dollar they send to Washington, they get back $1.68 in different kinds of federal aid. So, they taxed business out of Montana. Look at the state of Texas in comparison. For every dollar we get from Washington, D.C., we send them like $1.58. And those figures were true several years ago. They may be not as true. I don't know what they are today, but that's just an example. Okay, I think we got a caller, a fellow named Smitty. Smitty, you got something to say? Go ahead on.
Hi. I've been listening to this, I kind of an info geek. And I heard them when they first started this thing about this kid causing this problem. And then they started documenting all the contacts and stuff. They've got an actual record of this kid being talked into doing what he did. If you follow the record of the people calling in and what he was saying or what he was doing, even what he said.
Okay, what kid are you talking about?
The one that shot all those kids 17 kids in Florida.
Oh, okay, the 17-year-old shooter.
Huh?
Okay, you're talking about the 19-year-old shooter in Florida. Okay.
Right. He was, and like I said, with every one of the calls that should have been recorded or reported, if you look at the call, there's an actual record of how he was talked into it. Even where he said that it was his job, he was going to be a shooter. He was going to go out and shoot all these kids at school.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe somebody else can look at it and see it, but I think he was talked into it. So I'm curious about why. I think another game's been started.
See,
a game. I think they're going to be using it for a reason to take away our guns as we've seen it.
Well, you're raising an excellent point. What influenced him to do that? Did he have the mental state that allowed social media, whatever? Was there a secret fellow in the back room instructing him to do this? I don't think so. But I mean, he might have been influenced in some way to do what he did. So, and if that is true, and if that's possible, are there other people out there that they can influence to do the same thing? So, is the answer to our problem to take away guns and allow the sheriff's department and the police department and the FBI to handle our safety? That was the case in Florida. How good a job did they do? Well, I think I'd rather protect myself with a gun than I had to wait on them to do it. But you've raised an awful good point. What influenced the kid to do what he did? I don't know. But it's a good point. So thank you for the call, Gail. At any rate, like I said a while ago, now it's to the point where, due to the news media, etc., if you just utter the words AR-15, we go into a panic attack and we're ready to outlaw guns. Well, I heard a little bit about the new Democrat-sponsored legislation regarding guns, and boy, if that don't scare you, you're hard to scare. As I understand it, they want to outlaw any clip-fed gun, limit the capacities and limit this and limit that, and they want to require someone buying a gun to be 18 years or older. 21 years. You can't be 18, you got to be 21. Well, let's think about how stupid that is. If you're 18 years old, you can join the military and they'll hand you an M16 full automatic free. You don't have to buy it. You can do that if you're 18 or 19 years old. But if you stay at home, you're working on a job somewhere and let's say you're 19 years old, they want to prohibit you from buying a gun until you're 21. How stupid is that? And how effective will that be? If someone has a mental problem, like the boy in Florida, they'll steal their next door neighbor's gun, or they'll talk their mother into buying them one, or something, but they'll get a gun if that is their intent. So we need to regulate people, not guns. We need to figure out a way to, well, like in this situation, let's figure out how to get the FBI to answer the phone call and respond to it. We need to get the Broward County Sheriff's Department to do something after they've made 39 trips or whatever it was to the boy's home. The school was warned about the boy. All kind of warnings about this, and none of our government agencies did anything to stop him. So if we want to outlaw guns and wait on government agencies to protect us, boy, we are leaning on a broke stick, folks. I was telling you about being out there in the pasture, and I picked up a stick to fight that cow with, and it broke. Hence the meaning of leaning on a broke stick. Well, if you're leaning on the Broward County Sheriff's Department to protect schools and you while you're home in your home, we're leaning on a broke stick, people. You better keep that shooting iron around so you can protect yourself if you need be. And I don't know. I think we might have a caller on this here telephone. I think his name is CJ. CJ, are you out there?
I'm out here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I hear you. Go ahead on.
Yeah, you might be surprised, but I'm calling in to talk about guns.
Oh, no. Not you.
You know, there's obviously a lot of problems with, well, first of all, gun control in any form at the federal level is unconstitutional. But what really drives me nuts is that government creates a problem, government causes a problem, and then government decides it's the people that are responsible for it, so let's regulate the people and punish them. And you know, had this been any other issue, that would have been a separate argument, but we've got an issue here where the government failed to do what the government is there to do in the first place, which is to protect the rights of the people and to protect people. And so what happened was you have the FBI, you have local law enforcement, you have all of these entities whose sole purpose, this is what we pay them to do, which is to take these kind of complaints, do investigations, and protect people from danger, and they did none of that in this case. And the hubris of government is that, well, it must be the people's fault. It must be the gun's fault that we failed.
Well, and, you know, another question, CJ, is why is there no information about the Las Vegas shooting? Well, you know, there's something is bad wrong right there. We're not hearing the full story, and to me it begs the question: is it possible for these shootings to be caused to happen in order to get more gun control? Is that a possibility? Is there?
I think there are some cases of that, yes. I haven't fallen into that camp yet. I think we just have a problem with the fact that society has turned away from God. We have lost our value of life because of identity politics. We are now focused on ourselves and our own feelings than we are about being a good citizen. There's no civics in school. I mean, literally our society has gone from a community-based society to, well, this is what I want, and if I don't get my way, I'm going to throw a tantrum, and when I throw a tantrum, I'll get my way. And this is how the kids are being grown up. So, of course, when something happens that they feel slighted or like bullied, which, you know, these days, if you just say, I don't like your hat, that's bullying, then they just throw a tantrum. And unfortunately, today, that tantrum involves firearms because we have no value for life or God anymore.
Well, that's very true. And so many of the left, their answer is to prohibit gun ownership. But all of this, I believe, is a breakdown of the family and the raising of children. I said to a fellow in church not long ago, he said, well, he's going to buy security cameras because he's had a rock thrown through his window or some other 2 or 3 little instances like that. And I said, well, you know, why don't you consider buying a gun? He said, oh, no, I can't do that. I have children at home. And my answer was, when you bought a computer, did you educate the children on what to do about it? Did you educate them not to take a baseball bat and destroy the computer? Why don't you educate your children about guns? So is the answer to this, is it the prohibition of guns or is it the education of guns?
Well, my kids have been raised on how to be safe with firearms since they were 6 years old. They've been shooting for as long as I thought they were capable of doing so after training. But, you know, the reason these leftists are focused on gun control is because all of the shooters are leftists. They're Democrats. They're liberals. And so the problem is that leftists can't trust themselves with guns, so they assume nobody else can be trusted with guns. So perhaps if anybody's going to be disarmed, we should start with the left.
Yeah, maybe some of the politicians. You know, I'm reminded of Ted Kennedy, very, very anti-gun politician. And they arrested his bodyguard at some airport somewhere for trying to get on an airplane with a Uzi, you know, full automatic 9mm. And here's the guy that's preaching against guns. So how hypocritical are all these politicians, not all of them, but an awful lot of them that are so far left, they got 3 bodyguards carrying guns. Talk about a hypocrite, man.
Well, I'm gonna let someone else get on the phone, but I wanted to make one correction for you.
Yes, sir.
The military doesn't 16s or the M4s, which is mostly what they are these days. They are not fully automatic. They do have a select fire, but it only fires 3 rounds, and then you got to pull the trigger again. They're what we call 3-round burst.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The military has even realized that automatic weapons are nothing but a waste of ammo, and they're not accurate. So nearly every rifle issued to a soldier is a semi-automatic, and the worst you can, or the best you can get out of it is a 3-round burst, not fully auto.
Well, thank you for correcting that. I didn't realize they were doing that, but the fact is, it's still an AR-15 looking gun that scares everybody half to death. So you can give an 18-year-old one in the Army, but you can't allow him to have one here at home. Boy,
exactly.
I'm not sure I understand that. But thank you for the call, CJ.
All right. Take care, Conn.
I think we're going to have a break right here for try to pay a few bills, so we'll be back in just a minute or two. Okay, let's talk about some Chinese food here, folks. If you want to talk about some good food, Dynasty Chinese Restaurant is the place for you to go. You'll always receive super customer service and delicious food at Dynasty. It's a Temple favorite for a dine-in, buffet, takeout, or delivery. Dynasty is family-owned and operated. They are strong believers in freedom and liberty and are avid supporters of this show. So give them a call at 778-4434, 254-778-4434 to make a reservation or just take your better half out there for a date night or just a place to order for delivery for that quiet night at home after a long day. Or if you're more tech savvy, I guess, than me, place your order online at www.dynastychineserestaurant.com. They're located at 2501 Airport Road in Temple. 2501 Airport Road in Temple. You can also visit them on Facebook at Dynasty Delivery. Okay, folks, Academy Paint and Body. That's owned and operated by some very patriotic people that are strong supporters of this show. Now, I say that because I go in there and visit with them for a minute, and they say, let me get a checkbook. They offer a full and complete paint and body shop with free estimates and 45 years of combined experience. They know how to fix your car. They offer roadside assistance 24/7, emergency service, including towing. You know, should that dadgum deer run out in front of you and you hit them at midnight or whatever, maybe your teenager gets in a jam or whatever at work, they offer roadside assistance, tire changes, even car lockouts. When you lock out your keys in the car, well, give them a holler and they'll come out there and help you. They got a wrecker. Whatever the problem is with your vehicle, they'll work hard to help ease the frustration. Get your vehicle repaired and back on the road. Give RC and Lance a holler at Academy Paint and Body. Their phone number out there is 982-0047. That's 254-982-0047. Now, they're located at 20020 North Highway 95. That's in Little River Academy. So give them a holler, and they'll get your car fixed up. Hey, here we are back on the call-in show, Common Sense with Conn. Now, there's an old song talking about rodeo bull riders and whatnot. I got a question for you. You know, if the man standing outside the building in Florida while the shooting was taking place, what if that man standing there had been a bull rider from Texas? What if he had been a calf roper? What if he had been a steer dogger that jumps on them steers off the back of that quarter horse? Or anything like that? Do you really think he would have just stood there and listened to the gunfire and not done something? You know, my point of that is, are we raising people with no, pardon my French, they don't have enough guts in them or something? I don't know, but I cannot imagine a man with a gun and a badge and the authority to use it standing there listening to the gunfire inside the school. I cannot imagine that. You know, everybody I know would have kicked the door down to get to go in there. I think we got a caller here named Will, so Will, go ahead.
Hey, Conn, how you doing?
Well, I'm still here.
Yeah. You still busting those Broncos, brother?
Well, I tried to quit getting the pen with that bull because he won the last time I got in there. But the point is, I got in.
Well, look, what you're saying this morning don't really make too much sense to me. And I'm gonna start with what you just said about the police officer who was out firepowered, and that's why he did not go into that school.
Okay, now you said that the other day to Lynn Woolley, and I called in trying to correct that. Well, it is not what you shoot, it's how you shoot it. It doesn't matter if that guy had a .22 long rifle or a 9mm or another AR-15. If he don't know how to use it, he might as well have a stick. So it's not the kind of gun he was armed with. That's not that kind of a gun don't give him any more gut to go in that door. So I'm not gonna use the excuse that he didn't have a big enough gun.
17 people died in 3 minutes, Conn.
Yeah, they sure did.
So why do we need weapons that can kill 17 people in 3 minutes? I mean, this guy ain't even old enough. He ain't even old enough to buy a beer. I know you don't drink. You're
okay,
totally like me.
I tell you why we need them, Will. Because about 2 months ago in Oklahoma, another 19-year-old had another AR-15, and he defended his family and killed the 3 bad guys that just kicked the door in. So, you know, there are different cases. You know, you can't just look at one situation like the one in Florida. How many other? Look at the one in Sutherland Springs, Texas. You know, that guy was what stopped that guy. He killed 26 people in the church, and what stopped him from killing other people in other churches was a guy with I don't know if he had an AR-15 or a Mini 14, doesn't matter, but he was a barefooted plumber out there barefooted, and he did what he had to do to stop the guy. Now, what's the difference? Okay. Why did he go and stop the guy, and the one in Florida just stood there and watched it happen? So it's not the gun.
When you go hunting deer, you probably go hunting boar. You live in the same area I live in, so. And you probably, you know, so you usually take what, your 22, your 30-06 with you when you go hunting?
It doesn't matter what I take, Will. It's not what I take, it's how I shoot it.
No, because the AR series is meant to hunt humans.
No, Will,
yes.
that's a misconception.
Check the bullet. The bullet, I'm telling you, man, I was in the military 25 years.
Well,
I've given classes on this weapon.
Well, you may have been, Will, but you don't know anything about guns, military or not.
I think I do.
Well, I can tell you that a .22 long rifle will kill a 2,000-pound bull if you hit him right between the eyes with it. I've seen it happen. I've done it. You don't have to have an AR-15 or a Mini 60. You don't have to have a 50 caliber. You don't have to have a 50 caliber to kill something. You can kill it with a .22 long rifle. But I appreciate your call, Will.
Okay,
I enjoy your call. Don't forget the phone number. But I just want to keep making the point that it's not what you're shooting, it's how you shoot it. So we have this emotional reaction to anything AR-15. That should not be the point. The point should be who is using the AR-15. It's not the gun. The gun doesn't do it by itself. Somebody has to pull the trigger. If the man with the gun has a mental problem, if he has been called about to the sheriff's department, the FBI, and every other government agency, and nobody did anything, is it the fault of the AR-15? I'm not buying that idea. There's a Bob on the telephone here. Yes, Bob, go ahead.
Hey, Conn, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right, I guess.
Good. Listen, I wasn't going to call today, but after I heard Will, I just had to call in.
Uh-oh.
And here's the thing, and I don't have anything against Will, but here's the thing that Will and most folks forget, and that is a firearm I don't care if it's an AR-15 or it's a howitzer, is a tool.
Yes.
It's no better, no worse than the man or woman who stands behind it.
You know, I keep mentioning it, but I might remind people of the situation in Rwanda, where there were no guns involved. They killed the Hutus killed 100,000 Tutus or Hutu, whatever they were.
Tutsis.
Yeah, they didn't have a gun. They had hoes and axes and shovels, and they killed 100,000. So did the gun do it? No, the people did it.
Well, now, you remember that guy that ran the car in New York City?
Yes.
Ran down a bunch of folks?
Yes.
They didn't blame the truck on that.
Right.
They blamed the guy, because the guy did it, the truck didn't.
Right. And
so,
you know, if they buy and I'm reluctant to say this because I don't want to give anybody an idea, but there are things that you can buy at the local store for $50 that will kill 100 people at one time. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's right there, readily available, and nobody's prohibiting that because there's no emotional hysteria connected to it. And the news media has caused us to have this emotion about AR-15s. Oh my gosh, they're going to destroy the world. And it's all just propaganda.
Now, there's another thing I want to say about AR-15s, too. And Will doesn't understand this. He's obviously never hunted hogs in Texas.
Right.
I have, and an AR-15,
or anything else.
And an AR-15 take down a hog pretty good.
Yeah. So will a .22 long rifle if you know how to shoot it.
Well, there's been more people killed with .22 long rifles than there has been with AR-15s.
Exactly. That's my point. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
That's what I've been trying to say.
It's true. I mean, look at the FBI crime statistics. The other thing, too, hands and feet kill more people than firearms do. That's in the FBI's uniform crime reporting statistics, too.
Well, I think
ban hands and feet.
I thank you thank you for bringing that up because there's a lot of information you can get from the FBI Uniform Crime Report stats. I've read them before, and people ought to pay attention to that. You ought to pay attention to the Department of Labor when they rank the most dangerous jobs in the United States. What is the most dangerous job in terms of injury or death per man-hour worked? What's the most dangerous jobs here?
Probably law enforcement.
No. No, it's a long way from law enforcement. The most dangerous job in the United States is agriculture. In terms of man-hours worked per injury or death. In outside municipal employment, which is cops, garbage collectors, utility workers, etc., you know what is the safest job in outside municipal employment in the United States? You know what it is?
No, sir.
Police work. You know what's the most dangerous job? Utility workers, because of ditch cave-ins, electrocution, etc. You know what's
I heard you on that.
The second most dangerous job is garbage collectors. They're hit by cars. They pick up broken mayonnaise glass or something and get infection. That's I think the second most dangerous job. And I'm not belittling cops or anybody else, but I'm just saying let's keep it in perspective and let's look at the facts. Just for example, and you answered just like everybody else would answer. Oh, the most dangerous job is a cop. Well, it's not, and that doesn't take away from them. But we have been hammered with this. They lay their life on the line for us every day. You hear that 100 times a day. And I'm not trying to take away from them or discredit them. We need them. We've got to have them. And there's some really good, dedicated people out there wearing a gun and a badge. But if we tell them every day how dangerous it is and how they lay their life on the line for us, we get them scared to death to go to work.
I hear you. Well, bottom line up front, and that is that a firearm is only a tool.
Yes.
And if we ban firearms, anybody who's deluded or satanically or demonically possessed is going to find a way to kill people another way.
Right, and evil people and sick-minded people will always be among us, Bob. That there's no way to eliminate all of the bad guys in the world. They're out there.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They're out there, and they're always going to be out there. Just like poor people, you cannot eliminate all of the poor people in the world. If you
absolutely not.
If you take 10 people, give them $100 apiece, and put them in a room, in 2 or 3, 4 hours or 2 days, whatever, when they come out, that you're going to have 3 people with all the money, and you're going to have a few people with no money, and you're going to have some people with the same money they went in there with. That's just human nature. And,
that's right.
And you cannot pass all the federal laws you want to pass and totally eliminate poor people. You can't eliminate all the bad guys. They're always out there. But can we defend ourselves? Yes,
the last thing I want to say, and I'll get off and let somebody else get in, but that is that when I was in high school, we had a speaker come from the NAACP. And one of the things that he said that I remember so well, it's been 20 years since I was in high school, but anyway, this man said that during the days of the Ku Klux Klan, there was not a single black person lynched anywhere in our country who had a firearm to defend him or herself with. Nobody ever burned a cross on the lawn of an armed black man.
No.
So taking guns away from folks just
see.
Well,
yeah, I'm glad you repeated that, because this whole thing about racism and the Ku Klux Klan and the Civil War, it is so much misinformation about it. I thank you for bringing that up, and that came from the NAACP, not the Ku Klux Klan. So
it did. Well, thank you, Conn, for hearing me out today. I appreciate it, and I'll keep listening.
Bob, don't lose the phone number. You call back in.
No, sir, I won't. So long now.
I really enjoy good callers that know what they're talking about. So thank you for that call, Bob. And that's kind of helps put things in perspective, as my history teacher said once. And we need to keep facts and figures in front of us, whether it's about police work, dangerous municipal work, whatever it's about. Let's just keep the facts out there and not let emotion and hysteria rule our thinking. And I think that's what's happening to us, is the news media, they like to print sensational stories. And that pretty much controls our thinking. Front lines on the front page of the newspaper, AR-15 kills so many people. Well, they say that often enough that we have this emotional response to anything. But here's a man that's going to get us straightened out. I think I've heard him before. His name is Mark. Mark, go ahead.
Good afternoon. Very good discussion. Couple of 3 things off the top of my head real quick before I forget what I'm talking about. First thing is about the firearm. You know, we have still have a militia regulation within our Constitution, and we are to provide, you know, when it was set up, we were to provide the weapons equal to do the job that needed to be done. So that's every able male between 18 and 45 years of age is still, whether they realize it or not, part of a militia, and you have to have those kinds of weapons to do this job.
I think that's called the Posse Comitatus Act, isn't it?
Yeah, that's pretty close. Yes, sir. You know, and let me make a comment on the officers from 2 different directions. As a 10-year career officer, my department did not issue AR-15s, but we did carry 12-gauge, you know, pump shotguns, 9-shot, 8 in the tube, and 1 in the chamber. Those were in every squad car we had. The sergeants, and at later date, the patrol, senior patrol officers carried ARs in the trunk, but we were allowed by our department to carry our own firearms. So the Will's argument that this gentleman didn't have access to the same kind of firepower is just bogus.
Yes.
The other quick comment on the officer, folks don't realize that most of the departments, like that liberal department in South Florida, are probably union. I told the guy when this very first happened, when they said this guy was standing there not doing his job, I said, well, there may have been a stand-down order. Not only did he not go in, there were 3 other officers on video that stood behind the car. After Carl Gables shows up, Carl Gables basically says, what the hell, why aren't y'all going in? And I think they were told, we've been told to stand down and wait for SWAT. And that's what a lot of departments have, that policy. As a single officer or a multiple officer, if you're not a trained, quote-unquote, tactical unit, you're not allowed to go in those places. And on a union job, you violate a department rule, and you just lost your case, and you can be out of a job. So I'm not defending that guy by any means. As an officer,
no,
you're
just putting it in perspective, Mark, and I appreciate that. We need to understand the true facts of these things, and that's what you're saying.
Well, and the thing that gets me, though, as an officer, it just makes my blood boil. I got blood shooting out of my eyeballs, because I don't give a crap what the orders are. If I know there's somebody inside a school killing kids, guess what? I'm shooting somebody. I'm not waiting on nobody. And if you I'll sue you if you try to violate my rights. As an officer, have discretion.
Mark, let me tell you what your main problem is.
What's that, sir?
You were born in Texas.
Hey, there you go.
And for some reason, some of us seem to have more intestinal fortitude than others. And I'm not blaming that officer or anybody else, but I'm just saying some people literally cannot kick the door in and go in there. They just don't have what it takes. Others, that's the first thing they think about. Let's look at Benghazi. What were the 2 men told 4 or 5 times by the Secretary of State to stand down? What did they finally do? They finally said, give me that gun and get the hell out of the way.
And that's what has to be done, and that's what makes my blood boil, regardless of what the department rules or regulations or union rules or regulations were. I don't see how any male, I don't care whether they're an officer or not, like the gentleman down here in South Texas at the school, that, grabbed his AR and went out there and engaged the gentleman enough to hit him at least once or twice and stop that massacre there at the church.
Yeah.
I grew up and you grew up. There were rifles or shotguns or 357 Magnums or 22 pistols in the glove box. There were deer rifles in the gun rack. We didn't lock our doors. We didn't lock the trucks. They went to high school. There wasn't this, whatever it is that's going on now with the psychotropic drugs. These guys want to talk about the guns. Let's talk about the drugs and mental illness causing all this junk and what the doctors are giving us that clearly is written in the 3 and 4 and 5 pages of warnings. Psychotic episodes, suicidal thoughts, uncontrollable rage. All these medications that these kids are on do that, every single one of them. So let's talk about what's actually causing this.
Yes.
Instead of trying to blame an inanimate object, which the original caller called a tool.
Like Bob said about the shovel or a tool.
Correct.
You can use a shovel to kill somebody, or you can use it to dig a ditch. A gun the same way.
Yeah, let me tell you the power of the weapon. And the guy didn't even know what kind of weapon I had. But we had a gentleman, I say gentleman loosely, who pulled a weapon on another officer in the town I worked in. And, of course, we all went to the scene because we didn't find him. But we put out a warrant because we all knew who he was. And I would go, and I'm a single officer in a town of about 6,600. I would park under a street light, get out of my squad unit, get out my AR, light up my tactical light, which is the same ones the military uses, the surefire, really bright light that you see on the clips from overseas. And I had a red laser on the top of it, a side-mounted laser. I would activate those things, play it on some trees and stuff so everybody could see it, and I would clear areas and clear houses by myself. 3 days later, this gentleman turns himself in because that crazy cop with the red light thing on his gun is going to kill me. So you can't just look at this from one side, and this is where the gun grabber guys want. They want to look at it in the emotional, feel good, whatever it is, touchy-feely bullcrap, which doesn't work in reality.
Well, Mark, let me tell you another cop story. It emphasizes what you're talking about. There was an officer years ago in Bryan, Texas, that stopped a fella, and the guy whooped him and whipped the policeman and tried to take his gun. I think did take his gun. Anyway, an officer showed up on the scene. His name was Jasper, a police officer in Bryan. And Jasper walked up, and the bad guy he slapped him upside the head with a slapjack. You know what a slapjack is.
Yes, sir.
He hit him numerous times in the head with a slapjack and did not stop him. He finally backed up and shot him in the belly with his service revolver and knocked him down. But the point of the story is, if they're on drugs, you can hit them with a slapjack or whatever you want to hit them with, and if you don't have a gun, you're in trouble. So, you know, if they're doped up, I don't know very much about drugs. You may, Mark, but I'm just saying that's an example of what you're talking about. You know, you hit me with a slapjack and I'm going to go down. But you hit somebody on drugs with a slapjack, he's going to laugh at you. So there's times when you have to have a gun, and that is true of civilians as well as police officers. You know, Will was talking about the AR-15 and how awful they are. Well, the boy in Oklahoma, he was 19 years old. They kicked in his door. Now, I don't know what their intent was. There was 3 of them. They had brass knuckles and butcher knives. If you think they were going in that house to have a prayer meeting, I got news for you. You know, now the boy, the 19-year-old, stopped those 3 with an AR-15. So, you know, we can't condemn the AR-15 every time, all the time, in every situation.
Oh, absolutely. The most dangerous thing we do as society is this 2,000-ton thing I'm sitting in right now talking to you.
Yeah.
And as one of our caller pointed out, I could take this truck and drive into a crowd at the 4th of July. You know, down here with big 4th of July parades and all that, big Houston rodeo and stuff. You could mow down people with this thing, and it just keeps going. A human's not going to stop this, piece of machinery. And we average between 60 and 70,000 deaths a year, or have been, in vehicle-related accident, homicide, whatever you want to call them, whatever words you want to put on that. And we don't say a word about the vehicle. The vehicle doesn't do it. The driver does.
Well,
drunk drivers the same way. We don't blame the car for drunk drivers.
Well,
so how in the world? Go ahead.
There's all kind of ways to kill people if you're a bad guy, and
correct.
My man is telling me that we have got to go to break and try to pay a few bills. Mark, don't forget.
Roger that. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Don't forget the phone number, Mark.
I won't, sir.
Okay. Thank you for the call. Okay, folks, let's talk about chickens and peacocks. Asgard Farm Poultry is a family-owned and operated farm located in Lott and in Temple. They raise and sell chickens and peacocks of exceptional quality. These are not hatchery birds. They are highly productive, big, dual-purpose birds, so you can have large, beautiful colored eggs for your family breakfast or a nice-sized chicken for dinner. If you're not local, they ship chicks and hatchlings eggs all over the great state of Texas. They also raise some gorgeous, rare, and endangered chicken breeds. They invite you to learn about them and enrich your flock with these incredible birds while helping to continue these breeds' existence. Ask for Tina Gary, and her number is 210-215-7610. Don't let the 210 throw you off because they've been here for about 12 years in this area. Okay, their website is www.asgard, that's SZGARD, farmpoultry.com. And of course, they're on Facebook. Their email is chickenmath@asgardfarmpoultry.com. Give them a holler. Okay, folks, let's talk a little bit about getting your business or your home electrified or air conditioned. Dean Electric and Air Conditioning are an experienced business serving the greater Austin, Killeen area with professional, top-quality electrical services, including electrical construction, electrical service upgrades, and home wiring. The AC side of their company services many brands of air conditioning as well as providing total new installations. They do exemplary work, have friendly customer service, and reasonable rates. So if you need any type of electrical wiring or AC work, give them a holler. Their offices are located in Killeen at 502 South 2nd Street, and their phone number there is 254-371-5016. That's 254-371-5016. If you're in Williamson County or Travis County, you can call them at 512-694-3440. That is 694-3440, area code 512. Give old John up there a holler and he'll get your electricity going for you.
Central Texas. News Radio 1400 KTEM AM. Temple, Belton, Killeen, Fort Hood.
Shots fired outside the White House. I'm Joe Giro, Fox News. President Trump was at his Florida resort but was briefed on an incident outside the White House today when someone received a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
We're also told that there were no protectees in the White House at the time that this occurred. They're saying that there seems to have been someone who self-inflicted a gunshot wound along the White House north lawn, along the north fence of the White House. They say that that person is receiving medical attention. No word on their condition.
Fox's Allison Barber. Massachusetts governor has declared a state of emergency after nor'easters slammed the state, knocking out power and flooding coastal regions.
We have another high tide cycle to get through, so we're going to see one more batch of flooding, and then this will ease a little bit. So we're not completely done with it, but major damage from this. At one point, over 2 million people without power. This is the last 24 hours of the storm. Now it moves on out of here, and the winds are still gusting out there. In fact, at times over 40 miles an hour. Definitely windy out there, but it's almost gone.
Fox meteorologist Rick Reichmuth. Many power outages remain in the region. Up to 3 feet of snow fell in parts of central New York State. At least 5 deaths are blamed on the storm. Travel slowly getting back to normal, but there are still a lot of delays.
Things are improving at our nation's airports. Yesterday, we're talking about 3,400 flights canceled nationwide because of the nor'easter. Today, those cancellations stand at about 569, according to FlightAware.com. Boston's Logan Airport is at the worst right now. It's about 100 cancellations today. Here at LaGuardia, it's about 46 cancellations this morning. That's down from 600.
Fox's Brian Yennis at LaGuardia. Amtrak has resumed some service between Washington, D.C. and New York City after
Lord have mercy, I love that old Texas music. I sure do. He was a classic. That was Bob Wills of Texas Playboys. I still love to hear him. And I know that's not consistent with modern millennials or whatever. I just have to feel sorry for the modern millennials that never got to hear that kind of music. Lord, I feel sorry for you. But at any rate, onward and upward, folks. I need to announce that the Central Texas Auction Service, which is really some good folks, old Trey out there in Belton has Central Texas Auction Service, and they're going to have in fact, they are having today a car auction. It's either live or online, and it's at 121. No, I'm sorry, it's 212 Loop 121. That's in Belton, on the loop just barely east of the interstate. They're having a car auction out there, so if you want to buy a car, you might better get on out there because it's today. Now, they're having another car auction it's going to be the Automac Service Center liquidation, and that's going to be live and online, and that is April the 7th. More auctions and all kind of stuff out there. At any rate, if you want more information, the phone number is 254-718-5120. That is 718-5120. Call them if you need more information or directions. They can tell you how to get there. But it's a car auction, and it's happening today in Belton. So y'all pay attention to that. I think we got somebody on the line that wants to talk. So I think, Tina, go ahead on.
I couldn't help myself.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Will got me going.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so I'm going to pitch out a couple of different things, and then you can pick which one you want to talk about, and I'll let you go. But first off, Will was saying that sheriff's deputy was not armed well enough to go in there and handle. He was outgunned. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the coach that went in there had no gun, had no vest,
Good.
had nothing.
Excellent point. Excellent point,
Yeah.
Tina. Excellent.
And if I could have just reached through the phone,
Yeah.
telling you. And then, that junior ROTC student that sat and held the door open and helped people get out and directed them.
Right.
And that, he's gone. He had nothing except his courage.
All he had was guts.
That's it. And you know what? Guts sometimes is the best weapon ever. And then I wanted to say that my understanding is the number one weapon, death weapon is knives.
Yeah.
Not guns, and more people are killed annually by knives than they are by guns.
Right. Right.
And then I think it's automobiles and whatever. And then, then I want to say that, I think a lot of this has to do with, and you can elaborate later on it, of course, but the lack of God, family unity, parenting, spanking. We no longer have God in school, no gardening, no fishing, no shooting groups, no cooking classes. People don't know how to cook. They don't even know where their food comes from. It comes in a cellophane wrapper.
Yeah.
Or out of a styrofoam box. And then the last thing is, like we were talking about earlier, was the confusion of the interchangeable platforms on the long guns. Same gun, same caliber, we changed the outside of it.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go. You can go at it.
Well, thank you, Tina, for the call, because that's you reminded me of, who's the hero in this Florida shooting story? We're talking about the deputy sheriff who had the authority to go in, and he had a gun. It might not have been a .50 caliber machine gun, which I guess is what Will thinks maybe he should have had. But no, what gun did the coach have?
Well, first of all, even if I was a union officer, okay, which I wouldn't be, but even if I was, I would have gone in anyway. the hell with my job, the hell with my career. Those kids, one kid, an extra 5 minutes, an extra 20 minutes with that child and his parent, anything.
Well,
you know?
You're thinking like the coach was thinking. And so, you know, who's the hero in this story? You know, why aren't we praising the coach and encouraging other people to have as much intestinal fortitude as the coach had? You know, or the ROTC student that held the door open. See, they didn't have the latest weapon or the biggest weapon or the whatever, but they had guts enough to try to do something, and that's what's missing in some of these people.
Well, it's an absolute shame that these people and their role modeling. Sorry, my dogs are going on. Their role modeling is being completely lost because of, you know, gun control and this deputy and his idiotic decision making, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we can't even use these precious moments that the coach gave us and this ROTC student gave us, you know, as a role model or an example to bring up, you know, the other youth.
Well, and Mark brought up an excellent point, and I'm sure glad he did. If they belong to a union, and I guess they do down in Broward County, they would violate union rules by going in. Now, the union rules wouldn't have mattered to me or you either, and it wouldn't have mattered to Mark. But it would be a reason for some officers not to go in, I guess. But, you know, I'll bring up another subject. In this world that we live in, there are reasons and there are excuses. Now, you can use, let's say, the stand-down order, whatever it is. Is that a reason not to go in, or is that an excuse not to go in? I'm like Mark. If I think we don't know what we'd do in that same situation, but I'm pretty confident that if I had been there and somebody told me not to go in, I'd probably tell them to put it where the sun don't shine. I'm going in. That's what the boys in Benghazi did, and of course they died for it. But
let me also say this. I mean, me being female, you know, most of the listeners would not have a clue, but I've been under fire. I've been under a lot of fire. I've had the vehicle that I was in completely riddled. So I do know, I do understand what it's about. Okay, I do know how to return fire. So, you know, I have a comprehension when I say I would have gone in there anyway.
Well,
you know, and I just don't understand not, particularly if you have the training. I understand if you're just a civilian and you've never been around anything like that, you've always lived, you know, in the padded box, if you will. But not if you've been out in the real world and you've had things happen and you've had training.
Well, if you've never been hit on the end of the nose, then I guess you're scared half to death to confront something. But and that's what I'm saying before. I believe that common sense is a product of experience. So here we have Dianne Feinstein trying to dictate gun laws that we should all live by. I bet she's never picked up a gun. She don't know the foggiest thing about a gun.
But we don't let our children experience anything anymore.
No, we don't.
Everything has to be soft and cushiony and fuzzy, and let's give you something to feel better and still suck your thumb and carry your blanket around.
Well, that's why we're raising girly men instead of men. I have said numerous times, a parent's responsibility, I think, this is Conn's interpretation of, I think your responsibility as a parent is to raise ladies out of the girls and raise men out of the boys. Now, and to show you how far we've gone now at, Syracuse University, some university, they've decided that you can no longer use the word man. They want to eliminate the word man from our vocabulary. Where are we going with this? You know, and how many good, freedom-loving Christian Americans are standing by doing nothing? Somebody said once, all it takes for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing. And that's what we're seeing happen today. We're allowing Dianne Feinstein to dictate gun legislation. We're allowing 17, 16-year-old kids in Florida to dictate gun legislation. All it takes for them to win is for us to do nothing. Well, we have a choice to make today, folks. I'm going to talk to all of you good Christian, freedom-loving, liberty-loving Americans. We have a choice today. Are you going to stand by and do nothing and let evil win, or are you going to get involved? Right now is the primary season. If you want to help drain the swamp, take a look at your representative or your senator, look at his voting record, look at who sponsors his campaign, look at who gives him the most money, and you decide whether you want to put him back in office or you want to try some new blood. But if we really want to drain the swamp, the primary season is the time to do it. If you wait until the general election, you're going to choose between him and the Democrat. But right now is the time to decide who you want to send back to Washington. So I would encourage all of us freedom-loving Americans to look at voting records and make a informed decision about who you vote for in the primary. It is very, very important for us to do that.
3 quick points. One is I totally agreed with what CJ said, his statements earlier today. He hit the nail right on the head. 2, Rush had said that Democrats were winning the local elections more than Republicans. 3 is I was out to dinner the other night, and I have 2 15-month-old granddaughters, okay? And so the lady sitting beside me, she had a 14-month-old son. She was holding the sippy cup for this child. She was feeding this child. She was turning this child. She was doing everything for this child. She was raising his hands to wipe them off. He looked like he was probably 10 to 12 months old. There was nothing wrong with him. She had totally encapsulated him with, she was doing everything for him. She had disabled him, is what she had done. She had done nothing to enable him because she was trying to be the superwoman mom. My children and my grandchildren are raised where if they can walk outside and drag their blanket and carry a bottle, they can carry the bread, the toilet paper, the bananas, whatever, paper towels into the house. Well, exactly. They can go get their bottle. They can do this. They can do that. But they are capable of taking care of themselves in little pieces at a time. They're taught from the moment they're capable, instead of being completely disabled.
Exactly. Pay attention to how many women you see at church or wherever. You see a woman that's 5'2", weighs 120 pounds, and she's carrying a kid that is 4 foot tall and half as big as she is, and she won't let him walk. She's carrying him around. That just makes me so upset. What is the kid learning when his mother is carrying him around like a like a sack of sugar?
Well, and probably she's carrying him because she can't control him because she never instituted any parenting.
Well, how is he going to learn to walk or learn to do anything? But Tina, thank you for the call.
Thank you for having me. Thanks. Bye. Good show.
Okay, folks. Tina brought up some good points, and I think we better go to breaks. What we better do. Y'all hang in there. We'll be right back. Let's talk about communication systems. Fulkerson Communications, they are a leader in the communications industry. Fulkerson Communications brings over 40 years of experience to provide reliable and cost-effective solutions for all of your telecommunication needs. They offer consultation, design, sales, installation, and implementation of service of phone system and specialty applications, as well as network solutions, phone system, IP setup, and structured cable, voice over internet protocol technology to small and large business. Now, all of you know that I'm not very savvy in the high-tech world, so I'm doing the best I can. So I have no idea what I just described to you, but I do know these people will do you right, and they are there for you and for the long haul if you need them. Their service area covers most of Central Texas and part of the Hill. Their phone number in Temple is 254-742-0064, and in Killeen, it's 254-698-0016. That's 698-0016 in Killeen. Call them out there and talk to them. Now, you might get Dana. Now, I know her pretty well, and whatever she tells you, that's the way it is. So give them a holler and see if they can help you. Okay, folks, let's talk a little bit about Goodwin Farm and Ranch Supply. The Goodwins are just a nice family that have raised their kids to be impressive, outstanding, patriotic young adults. It was truly a pleasure to have an intelligent conversation with an educated young person. That's their 19-year-old son out. Their family own and operate 2 feed stores. One in Moody. It's at 108th Street there in Moody, and that phone number is 254-853-8039. The second one is here in Temple out in the industrial. It's in Temple at 3600 Range Road. That's 3600 Range Road, just off of Loop 363. And that phone number is 254-773-8840. Now, they carry a wide variety of feed, different kind of brands to choose from for your equine, I guess that's horses, livestock, wildlife, and pet needs, as well as traditional farm and ranch supply. So they got the feed. Just go by there and tell them what you need, and they'll try to get it for you. Both stores are open Monday through Friday, 8 until 6 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. Their website, if you need it, is www.goodwinfarmandranch.com. That's www.goodwin. Y'all have a comment to make. Well, the phone number here is 773-1400. 773-1400. Just call in and tell me what you want to talk about. Another thing I'd like to mention is if you have someone who would sponsor this show, we always need sponsors in order to keep this show on the air, because KTM don't let us do this free. They want money. So the number to call there if you'd like to sponsor this show is 300-1885. That's 300-1885. And keep in mind, let me make a comment here. For those of you who think that old Conn is just really getting rich off of this radio call-in show, I got news for you. I don't make one dime out of this show. Not one crying penny. All the things that I do free. I'm just trying to help preserve freedom and liberty. So don't have the idea that I'm making anything out of this, because I'm not. But if you do want to support the show, the number is 300-1885. Anyway, back to the show. As usual, I've got several pages of notes that I wanted to talk about, and I got so many good listeners and callers that I don't get to talk about my notes. But I do want to mention one thing real quick before we go on to something else. Mark Levin had a show last Sunday, and his guest was Dr. Walter Williams from George Mason University. I have followed him for years and years. He is a good black fella, professor at George Mason University. He made some just excellent comments on the Mark Levin show. And let's get this caller, and then I want to talk about Walter Williams when we get back. Bill, go ahead on.
Good evening. They're talking all about these guns and everything, and that sheriff's department had what I would call 30 red flags that this boy was mentally ill, and they didn't do anything to evaluate him or get him some help, and he even put on some kind of site that he wanted to be a school shooter. That's sick, and he needed some help. I don't know why they couldn't have done something before he unlocked the cabinet and took his gun out.
Well, Bill, you're suggesting that we all turn in our guns and allow the Broward County Sheriff's Department to protect us and take care of us. Is that your...
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I didn't figure that's what you thought. Yeah.
No, I keep my AR-15 oiled and everything, ready to go.
And loaded. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, and that can't help you much.
Well, I don't understand, but Mark might have explained it pretty well. They might have been under the influence of the local union that caused some of this. I don't know. I don't know what stops a man from protecting the lives of kids, but there's so many cases. Look at the airplanes they used to fly into the World Trade Center, and then look at the one that went down in Pennsylvania. What did the men on that plane do? I forgot the guy's name, but he said, "Let's roll," and they went in and they caused the plane to crash in that field, but they also prevented that airplane crashing into our United States Capitol, which would have crippled our government. So, look at the difference. Those men, they had to do something, and they did something, and it worked. Now, they died in the process, but they were going to die anyway. But I'm just saying there are some people, well, like the guys that took over the airplane, they had box cutters. Well, you might scare me with a .44 Magnum, but you're not going to scare me very bad with a dad-blame box cutter. Old Raymond that called this show, you might scare him with a sawed-off shotgun, but you're not going to scare him with a box cutter. Most of the people that I know, most of the men I know, and some women, you're not going to scare them with a box cutter because they're going to pick up a stick or a rock or something and hit you with it, and take that box cutter away from you and put it where the sun don't shine. Shut up, Conn. At any rate, Bill, thank you for the call.
I'd like to make one more comment.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I mentioned about the psychiatrist. Oh, he's alive. So they could evaluate him and maybe find out if it's drugs or if he's got a tumor or whatever was wrong with him.
Yeah, but, Bill, sadly, and it's what you're saying, they could have evaluated him before he killed the 17 kids.
Absolutely.
But they didn't. They didn't answer the call to duty. So there's a lot of aspects to this story, but So our news media wants us to think there's only one aspect, and that is get rid of AR-15s.
Well, those are politically correct, you know. We got to get into that.
Yeah, we got to get over this fear of AR. Anyway, thank you for the call, Bill. You be careful out there.
Bye-bye.
Okay, here we are. I was talking about Walter Williams. He is a black fellow that's a professor in George Mason University. Just a good common sense, straight talking fellow, and he brought up a good subject. One of the things that he brought up was they invented or started the Department of Education. It was founded in 1980, and when it was founded in 1980, students in the United States ranked second in the world. I guess SAT score test, etc. They ranked second in the world, only behind Australia. Here we are in 2018, and the same ranking is 17th in the world, not second. So how much good has the Department of Education done? They've spent a lot of tax dollars. They've gotten a lot of control of our school systems. And what are the results? The results are our educations are going straight down, not up. But here is Rick in Salado, and he's going to explain this for me. Go ahead, Rick.
Well, Walter E. Williams is a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yes, amen.
We need more people like him. He reminds me of several others of his, that are like him, that know all about what liberty's all about and stuff like that. And and I'm so glad that he brought up on that show the Department of Education.
Yes.
That was, it's just amazing. I like Mark Levin too, but he's kind of a hothead. But I enjoy his show as well.
Yeah, but Walter Williams is calm, collected, and smart, and tells it like it is. I really, really think a lot of Walter Williams.
Yes, he's more of a libertarian than he is a conservative, but he's a good libertarian. I mean, there's some crazy libertarians out there that go a little too far. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. They don't want any child labor laws at all and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that kids shouldn't work on the farm and stuff like that, but I don't want them in sweatshops like they do in some countries either.
No, we don't need to do that. But, having said that, Rick, you brought up a good subject. I would like to see us create a way for a business to hire a teenager, for example, and at a very reduced rate of pay, but teach him how to do something. If we had a mechanic shop, for example, or a welding shop, if he could hire a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old to work part-time after school at a reduced hourly wage, excuse me, what could the kid learn? But as it is today, man, if he's not 18 or 20 or 21, you can't let him do anything.
Well, I think it'll get to a point where they won't be able to have their own little lawn business or anything, because have you heard about these kids that put up lemonade stands and they have to take them down because they don't have a permit?
Yeah.
And getting back to Walter Williams, though, I think Rush Limbaugh used to have him on his show as a guest host, so he could say things that Rush would feel uncomfortable saying. Because I'll never forget when Walter E. Williams talked about Abraham Lincoln, and he said he was not the great emancipator. And he explained what the Civil War was all about, very similar to the things you said. And it's just amazing the knowledge that man has in his brain.
Well, his knowledge is amazing, but his ability to tell the truth is amazing. And that's what's missing in our country. We don't want to say anything that might not be politically correct or might offend someone somewhere, or so just if we just tell the truth, dadgum, whatever happened to truth.
Anyway, I could probably talk all day long, but I better let somebody else on and let you keep talking about that show that you watched with Levin and Williams, because that's really interesting. That's why you sparked me to call in when you mentioned that great man,
okay.
Walter.
Did I strike a nerve there, Rick?
Yep. Bye.
Well, it's a good nerve to strike. I've watched Walter Williams for years and years, and it's just amazing what he knows and what he says, and he ought to be on somebody's show every day. Let me tell you something else, if I can find it in my notes, and I'm not sure I can. Well, he's talking about the Department of Education, which we need to understand. Also, he brought up, I think it was him that brought up the fact that there was 550 people killed by guns last year. There was 1,500 people killed by knives. And there's no telling how many in car wrecks, etc. But the point is, we don't have any Dianne Feinsteins out there talking about outlawing all the knives, but there was more people killed with knives than there was with guns. So why don't we keep this in perspective? I guess you could defend your family with a knife, or you could go hunting with a knife, I guess, but it'd be kind of hard to do, especially if the guy that comes in has got a gun of some sort. Okay, I've been talking about Raymond, so here's Raymond on the phone.
Yes,
Raymond,
sir.
we want to.
Yes, sir. Thank you for accepting my call, Mr. Tatum. I don't know how to word all of this, but I'm going to try my best to put it in perspective. This gun situation is really getting out of hand as far as I'm concerned. And if anybody remembers that real heinous crime that they did at Luby's Cafeteria up there in Killeen.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that guy didn't come in with an AR-15. He had 2 or 3 Glock pistols with 30-round clips, and look how many people he took out.
Yeah, and let's keep something in mind there also. There were, well, I could go into detail, but I won't, but there were some police officers that took an awful long time to get to the scene. And when they got to the scene, they sat out there until the shooting stopped.
Yes, sir. And I also like to make one more statement, Mr. Tatum. I know you have a lot of other callers that want to call in and make their comment. I just want to just say, God bless those poor children that got their lives taken in that school. That was very, very unnecessary to have that done. And I don't know what's going to be the end of this solution or what's going to happen. But people have to realize every time you walk out of your door and get in your vehicle, you're in danger to not ever come back again.
Yeah.
And all I can do is just say, if you believe in God, which I do believe in God, just pray and try to see if things can be changed. As far as I'm concerned, I hope they do. And thank you for allowing me to talk on your program, Mr. Tatum, and you have yourself a good day.
Well, thank you for the call, Raymond. And you brought up another subject. Just the other day, Joy Behar was very critical of Vice President Spence because she's making fun of him having God talk to him. Well, in the first place, I'm not brave enough to criticize God in that situation. I'm afraid I'd walk out the door and lightning strike me or something. But no, I'm kidding. But the point is, what kind of people do we listen to, like Joy Behar, that criticizes Vice President Spence and his listening to God? Well, I don't think Vice President Spence has ever said that he heard the booming voice of God, but I can tell you that God has the ability to inspire you to think a certain way or make a certain decision, and I'm not going to make fun of that. Now, if you want to make fun of it, you go ahead, but I'm not going to, because I think we can be inspired of God to do the right thing. And I keep saying, there ain't but two sides in this fight, folks. There's God and there's the other guy. And if God is talking to you or inspiring you or whatever, I hope that we have more leaders that listen to the good Lord. At any rate, now we got Ed on the phone. Ed, go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Conn. How are you?
Well, I'm just doing all right. How's everything up there?
Oh, pretty good. It's a nice day. You inspired me to call when you had mentioned what Walter Williams had said, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. The Department of Education has become the Department of Indoctrination, and they're indoctrinating these kids. That goes along with what has happened with this kid at this most recent shooting in Florida. And the 39 calls that the police made out, the responses that they came to the house, which I think that's been updated to 45. And I just can't help but feel that this kid was groomed or set up to do something like this. And that, and along with one of your callers had brought up, I think it was Cal, brought up about the, not the Communist Manifesto, but the 20 points or 30 points that the communists had projected as being methods of destroying our culture and our Constitution and our country. Yes. I think it's all part and parcel of the same thing. This is the big picture and little pieces that are fitting into that big picture.
Well, a good one point he brought up, and I have read this before many years ago, that one of those points, it was 10 points that the Communist Party wanted to do to take over the United States, and one of them was get people so interested in sports that they won't be involved in politics. And just look at people's attitude today about basketball and football and whatnot. There's people that's all they think about. They don't care about liberty or freedom or anything else, and they forget that the liberty and freedom is what gives them the right to watch the football game. So, back to what you're saying, though, are we getting our priorities kind of mixed up, Ed? Is our priority football instead of freedom? How do you go to the football game if you don't have freedom to do so?
Well, my thinking on that is that it's a multi-level attack on our culture, on our country. And I think they're succeeding. And it's everything, as we've been degraded over the years, our culture has. And it's everything that's being discussed on your program, it's not by coincidence, it's by design.
Exactly. And that's, I hate to get off into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, but but it does raise the question, what made the Las Vegas shooter kill all those people? What inspired him to do it? Why did he do that? Why did the shooter in Florida do that? Is this the natural thinking of a human being, or are they caused to think that way? And if so, what caused it? Is it social media? Is it drugs? What is it? But there has got to be a reason that a man went to all that trouble and set up all that stuff in Las Vegas to kill as many as he could kill. Something made him do that. What was it?
How can one person with bump stocks have done that? I know you don't like to use the word conspiracy, but there are conspiracies or plans.
Yeah, what's the definition of a conspiracy, Ed? I think it's when two or more people get together to decide to plan to do something. It's a conspiracy. So, like the Las Vegas shooting, I still have a problem understanding why there was 2 windows knocked out that far apart. You count the windows between the two. There's 9 windows between those 2 windows. That's 11 windows. Why have 2 windows knocked out if there's only one shooter? And
correct.
There was never a break in the shooting long enough for him to have moved from one window to the next window. So, was there 2 shooters or was there one? Give some common sense thought to this. And then tell me why it is there is so little information coming out about the Las Vegas shooting. What are they covering up?
Well, wasn't there another release earlier this week about a woman who had claimed that she definitively saw another shooter? I'm saying this in addition to the other claims of people saying that there was more than one shooter.
Yeah, and see, we have to understand that some of this is bogus. There are people that will want to be seen on TV and they'll make a claim of some kind, and she may be truthful and she may not. But common sense ought to make us ask the question, why the two windows so far apart if there's only one shooter? Something don't make sense. Something doesn't jive. And a fellow said once upon a time years ago, can we connect the dots?
That's right.
Have we lost our ability to connect the dots? And Ed, maybe you can answer that for me, since you're the one who started that.
Well, I like to think that I am, because I never heard anybody say that until I started saying it. But it's true. Again, I think it's part of the plan, and it's part of, it was identified by these, not the 10 platforms or planks of the Communist Manifesto, but actually their game plan to destroy our country. And another thing I like to say, just to jump around here, is I'm very disappointed in our president and his statement about changing the age for purchase of firearms and the high-capacity magazines.
Well, that was my comment a while ago. Why is it you can take the same 18-year-old, put him in the military, hand him an M16, and it's okay? But out here in the big world, he can't have one until he's 21. Hold the phone, Andy. What's the difference? Let me real quick get into a quote from Walter Williams. I was going to talk about this and I haven't. But he said that equality before liberty, and that's what we're seeing today. They have to be equal. Everything's about equality. Okay? If you're not careful, you'll lose both, equality and liberty. When you think that equality should take precedent over liberty, you're probably going to lose both of them. And and that's a very good statement. And he said liberty under the law is the only true liberty. And my man is telling me that we got to go to break, Ed. So thank you for
Great
the call.
talking with you.
You be careful up there.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, folks, let's talk a little bit about Jack Hilliard Materials. They're out there at 12495 Reed Lake Loop in Temple. That's out there just past Academy. They handle all kind of rocks, big rocks, little rocks, gravel, road base, pea gravel, sand, whatever it is you need, they got it out there. Give old Hector a call at 254-982-4122. That's 982-4122. And also now they have dozers and excavators, and they can build you a stock pond or a road or whatever it is you want to build. And they got all kind of rocks to put on top of it when they get through. Give old Hector a call out there at 982-4122. Okay, folks, if you have an American flag outside your business, this show is an excellent choice for your advertising dollar. If your core beliefs are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, this show is an excellent choice for your advertising dollar. If you merely want to build a good, wholesome customer base, this show is an excellent choice for your advertising dollar. If you decide you want to advertise on this show and get some of those good customers, the advertising dollar working for you will give us a call at 254-300-1885. That's 300-1885. And we'll get you set up and going. Okay, folks, let's talk about some cow feed and horse feed and stuff like that. Temple and Belton Feed and Supply. It's a family-owned, operated feed store for 30 years, serving in Bell County, farmers, ranchers, pet owners, and hunters. Both stores offer a wide variety of feed brands and supplies for your farm stock, show animals, livestock, pets, including your spoiled chickens and wild bird lovers. They have a horse tack, feeding products, toys, jewelry, Western wear, you name it and they got it. Hunters, they have your camouflage gear, deer feeders, blinds and stands, and the best protein feed for harvesting those great big old bucks that you want to put on your wall when you get home. Also now, I sure do like to feed that Winland horse and mule feed to my horse. He kind of, when I give him that, he thinks he died and went to hell. They're just good people over there. I've been buying feed there for a long time. Anyway, if you're in Temple, stop by and pick up what you need at 305 South 2nd Street. That's 305 South 2nd Street. Their phone number out there is 254-778-7975. At 778-7975. In Belton now, if you're down there in Belton, if it's closer to you, you'll find them at 410 East 2nd Street. That's 410 East 2nd Avenue, Or if you call them at 939-3636, they'll help you out there. Their website is templebeltonfeed.com. templebeltonfeed.com.
How's it going, Conn?
Well, I'm still here, despite what some folks might want, but I shouldn't say that. I think I have a lot of supporters for this show, and I'm thankful for every one of you.
And I appreciate what you do.
What's on your mind today?
Well, I support about it was about 30 minutes ago, the officer that called in.
Right, Mark.
It's what I've been saying all along, and boy, did he hit it on the head. It's not the guns that kill the people or the kids, it's the drugs that these kids are taking. I just looked it up this past week on the internet that boy in Florida was on some drugs. But it's these pharmaceutical companies and doctors are pushing way too many drugs. And, I mean, all you have to do for the people who don't realize it, just Google it up, get up on the internet. These, you can look it up, what the ingredients are. I've been even to Austin back in December, and I will be going back again. I'm taking petitions, signatures, and, you know, it goes all the way down to Gardasil, flu, any of these stuff, look up what's in it.
If I'm not mistaken, we brought up the fact that some of the vaccines and some of these drugs, they've got things like the same chemical that you put in Roundup, or the weed killer and stuff like that.
Yes.
Right. That's got to be doing something to your brain. If it'll kill weeds, it may
does.
kill your brain. You know.
But you know, most of this stuff looked like it really got rolling when Obama got elected.
Yeah.
I don't know who would have voted for him. How could a person in their any right mind vote or support Obama? He destroyed this country. Hillary would have really finished it off.
And you know, what's the most disappointing about that is how many folks don't have the mental ability to look at what he was. You know, what qualified him to be voted for president? What was his qualifications? Oh, he was a community organizer, and he was black. What else was it? Why did people vote for that?
An American hater. Common sense would tell you can't let foreigners into this country. I mean, when anybody with a half a brain would tell you that.
And when he got in there, who did he help? Let me see. He helped Iran. He helped Iraq. He helped, and if you remember, all the troops and equipment that was in Iraq, Obama is the one that brought the troops home and left the equipment. Turn your TV on, and when you watch and you see an ISIS fighters in a Abrams tank or a Humvee, where'd that Abrams tank come from? Obama gave it to them. You know, and
yeah, they didn't have no manufacturing facilities to.
No, we gave it to them.
Owned. Yes.
You know, if you bring the troops home and leave the equipment, that's no different to supplying the equipment for the enemy. I think that used to be called aiding and abetting. It also used to be called treason. But anyway, another subject, I guess. But
anyway, getting back to this, what these kids are, it's how it's affecting their brains. I mean, the ones that really are the murderers are your pharmaceutical companies and your doctors, because they're being, well, the doctors that may not be able to quite be blamed because they're not the scientists, they're the doctors. They're told these lies from the pharmaceutical companies.
Well,
so the ones that really need to be investigated are the people at the pharmaceutical companies they're in money laundering is what they are. That they're just no better. They're worse than the Mexican drug cartel.
Well, look at the opioid. Look at the opioid epidemic that we've got. Who caused that? I didn't manufacture opioid, and you didn't either. But the pharmaceutical companies did, and somebody pushed it on us to the point that now we have an epidemic of people taking the dadgum stuff.
Yes. So they're the people who need to be tried, and if found guilty, execute them the way you do the rest of the people for murder. Because the innocent kids that died at all these schools, the person that pushed these drugs is the one who needs to be tried, and if they're convicted, execute them. I don't believe in murder, but I think if the government would allow me, I'd be glad to be their executioner.
You say you'd have fewer pharmaceuticals? Well, Wayne, we appreciate your call. You be careful out there for the rest of the week.
Oh, I will.
And don't take too much of those remedies that you hear about on TV.
Oh, I know it.
Yeah,
I know it. Everything.
I got tickled at one. They advertised that it would prevent blood clots and stroke. And the last sentence of the disclaimer was, may cause blood clots and stroke. So I don't know about that stuff. But here again, if you listen to that and you got an ounce of common sense, you're not going to take that drug. So
exactly.
I don't know what's missing in our country, but there's something wrong somewhere.
It is.
It may be at the Department of Education or something. But
I just made the comment this week. It's funny how in the last, well, not the last 8 years, but the 8 years that Obama was in office, how the American people were brainwashed.
Yeah.
I mean, literally brainwashed.
Well, they sure have been. Wayne, you be careful out there, and thank you for the call.
Okay, all right.
Folks, this is the end of another great 2 hours in radio. I thoroughly enjoy it, and y'all stay tuned next Saturday, and we'll do this again. Lord willing, the creek don't rise.
Your Fox News station in Central Texas. News Radio 1400 KTEM AM. Temple, Belton, Killeen, Fort Hood.
Leaving behind a mess. I'm Joe Chiro, Fox News. The after effects of a powerful nor'easter that ripped through the Northeast are still being